Hello, my name is James Moore, and this is the video that accompanies the July 2013 Technology Tuesdays on the Windows Surface Pro. So what exactly is the Windows Surface Pro? From my perspective, it is a Swiss Army knife device. It does a multitude of things, some of them quite well, although not to perfection. Because of this, I think it's not necessarily the best device for most consumers, but it can be an excellent device for faculty here at DePaul. There are certain things that it manages to do very well that I think make sense within the classroom. So I wanted to share some tips, some advice, some suggestions, and perhaps you'll consider using the Surface Pro in your teaching. To begin with, it is, as I say, a compromised device. Windows 8 is a little bit strange. It is really combining two operating systems on one device. On one side we have the tablet. So this is sort of a device that doesn't have a keyboard, doesn't have a mouse. You hold it in either landscape or portrait orientation, and it's designed as a competitor to the iPad. And here it uses the Metro interface, which has been renamed somewhat confusingly by Microsoft as the modern UI. So this is a touch interface. We have large, bold buttons. Typically we have one application or one program running at a time, filling the entire screen. But the Windows Surface Pro also operates in a way that's similar to a laptop. If you connect a keyboard and you go into desktop mode, you'll notice that your device now looks pretty similar to Windows 7, Windows Vista, Windows XP devices you may have used in the past. So it's both. It's tablet and laptop in one device. In terms of what the device looks like, we've got a couple of things here. There are front and rear cameras towards the top of the device here. On the right, we have a micro SD slot, so you can add additional storage. We have a stylus, which connects to the magnetic power port on the side of the device. And then we have a mini display port, so this allows you to plug in external monitors. On the left here, we have a USB port, only one, but it's running USB 3. And then if you decide to purchase a keyboard, you can plug this in at the base of your device, and this turns this into something similar to a laptop. Behind the device we also have a stand, so you can prop the device up on a table, although there's only one angle of orientation that you can choose from. Now you could just buy the tablet on itself, but I think there are additional accessories that you would need if you were to use this in the classroom. So here's my shopping list. If you're getting the Windows Surface Pro, you also want to get a VGA adapter, and this will then allow you to use this device in the classroom using the projectors there. You'll want a type cover keyboard, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then lastly, you may want to purchase an Ethernet adapter. The Surface Pro doesn't have an Ethernet port, so you can't plug this in to the Ethernet cables that you'll find within most classrooms here. So if you're concerned that Wi-Fi coverage is not as reliable as it should be, having one of these in your bag will be helpful to you. This plugs in through the USB connection on the device, so again, note there's only one USB connection. If you're planning to use multiple USB devices simultaneously, you'll probably want some form of hub as well. Now in terms of the keyboard, there are two covers that Microsoft provides. There's the touch cover and the type cover. My recommendation to you is to get the type cover, not the touch cover. The touch cover you can see in the background here. This is a very interestingly designed device. It's a keyboard that's only 3mm thick. So some very interesting technology here. The downside to this design is the thinness makes typing somewhat unpleasant sometimes. Because there's no give to the keys, you may start to feel some discomfort in your fingertips. You may start to feel that this is an uncomfortable operation. So my recommendation to you would be to get the type cover. Slightly thicker, but the fact that the keys give somewhat, the fact that the keys depress, I think is of value. My other shopping advice is definitely not to purchase the Windows Surface RT. You don't want to get this device. Microsoft is selling this at a fire sale now. You can get this device for a very reasonable price. The reason why I don't think it's an appropriate tool for faculty is this device only has the Metro or Modern UI. It doesn't have the desktop mode. So this means that you can only run programs on this device that are available to you through Microsoft Store. So if, for example, there is a program on the web that you would ordinarily install on your Windows device, and that program is not available through the store, you can't install that on your Surface RT. If you have programs on a CD or a flash drive that you want to install, again, you can't do this. You can only use the store. So this limits you to what's available there, and I think for most faculty the programs that they want to use are perhaps not available in the store, and it limits you to just using Office on the device. So this limitation, I think, is a little bit too frustrating for faculty here at DePaul, so I would highly advise not purchasing this device. There are some ways that you can save money though. If you are somebody who owns the little dongles that the Mac uses for their mini display port, so this is the mini display to HDMI or mini display to VGA adapters, those will typically work. So in my experience, the stuff that I've got with my Mac also works on the Surface. Now, probably one of the most powerful programs that you can use on the Surface is PowerPoint. And with the most recent version of PowerPoint, I think Microsoft has improved things to the point where this is a more usable tool within the classroom. One of the ways they've done this is PowerPoint now is better designed for somebody who's presenting in the classroom. Historically, PowerPoint has had a presenter view that can be hidden from the students. So here on screen, you're seeing what a presenter would see as they plug their device into a projector or monitor. So on your own personal screen, you get to see the slides that you're sharing with your students, upcoming slides, any presenter notes, and then navigation to move through the slides, and tools that you can run. A pen, we can zoom in, zoom out, we can change the monitor display to sort of switch off things from our students. They've made this interface more comfortable to use. Historically, the pen mode that you might use with PowerPoint limited you in that you had to remember to switch on to activate that mode for each slide during a presentation. With the current iteration of PowerPoint, that's not the case. It's a better designed program. You can, as you are teaching in the classroom, take your annotation pen and start to annotate things on the screen here that your students will then see on the projector. I think this is good, but I think there's a limitation. There are some additional sort of pen functionality that PowerPoint doesn't have that another program has. So my recommendation to faculty who are thinking about using the Surface Pro is to consider whether animations and some of the features within PowerPoint are important to you. If you don't need those animations, if you don't need those transitions, perhaps the better program to use is an open source program called Sankore. And here I must thank Josh Lund from FITS who recommended this program to me. So this is what I'm using at the moment. I'm presenting to you using Open-Sankoré. I've imported my PowerPoint slides, and I could do the same thing with PDFs or images or other digital file formats. I can construct a storyboard of events which I can then present in the classroom. I have additional tools that I can use here, and I think this allows faculty to teach to a better degree. So to begin with, we have a pen, and with PowerPoint, essentially you're limited to one color. Changing the color is a little bit cumbersome. It's not something that you can do terribly easy. Here in Open-Sankoré, I can change the color of the pen that I'm using very quickly. And this makes things very useful within the classroom. I can also change the thickness of the pen that I'm using. And if I decide that something isn't working as well as it should do, I can go in and erase what's on the screen. So that is an advantage. We also have, I think, an improved zoom in and zoom out. So PowerPoint has added this to their functionality recently. But with Open-Sankoré, I can zoom in, pan around, and I can do things here that I can't do as readily in PowerPoint. So again, I think this is an improvement on PowerPoint. This ability to have almost a conceptual map of content that you're presenting to your class and zooming in, zooming out, moving around the screen is something that can be very helpful to you. We also have the ability here to undo something. So if we write an equation and we're putting incorrect information, we can step back various stages of undo. So again, this is helpful, I think, to faculty. We have a laser pointer, so we can show focus on the screen. We have a highlighter, so we can highlight content. We also have the ability to draw straight lines on the screen, which again can be very helpful to faculty. This isn't sort of rocket science. There isn't something here that I think is sort of a paradigm shift or some new discovery, but the combination of the open source Open-Sankoré program and the way that the Windows Surface Pro is designed make this a very usable device within the classroom. I think the affordances provided to you by this combination of hardware and software is something to consider. I mean, pen devices, stylus devices have been around for a while, but generally they're a little bit painful to use. They're a little bit clunky. Here, I think we're approaching something that is usable, and I feel comfortable recommending this to faculty. Lastly, you may want to consider using Camtasia. Camtasia is screencasting technology. This allows you to record whatever you do in the classroom or on your computer screen. So here I'm using this to create the recording that I'm sharing with you today. So Camtasia, I think, works very well for this. I think the better use of this is to create short reusable learning objects which you can share with your students before class, essentially flipping the classroom. And the ability to write, to annotate, to draw on the screen, I think can be very helpful to faculty. Where I see it being used best is perhaps providing feedback to students. So you might be grading or marking up a paper and talking to the students at the same time. Or virtual office hours where you're using online classrooms, Google Hangouts or Skype to share information with your students. And again, the ability to write, to draw, to move your pen on the screen can be very helpful. And then lastly, the use in the classroom I think is appropriate. I would be wary of using Camtasia to record your classrooms just because that this can create a load on your laptop and can create large files, but it's something to consider. This is something I do with the classes that I teach. I'm using tools like Camtasia or ScreenFlow to simultaneously record what I present and share in the classroom. This I think is helpful for students who couldn't be there that evening, or students who have English as a second or third language and are perhaps concentrating too much on taking notes. The fact that there's a recording present for them, I think, takes the burden off them. Anyway, that was me very briefly talking about the Windows Surface Pro. Just to reiterate, this is a device that is now supported by DePaul. I think it's something that's worthy of consideration for faculty. I think the combination of improved PowerPoint, Open-Sankoré, Camtasia, and Stylus makes this a very engaging device for faculty to use. Historically, I've been a fan of Apple devices. I typically use a MacBook Air, but the Surface Pro is something that I've started to use more in the classroom. I think that there are certain advantages that this device has that Apple presently doesn't have. I've used the iPad to teach in class, and although that does have the ability for pen or stylus input, the digitizer, the technology that's used on that device, reduces accuracy. I'm using a stylus here, and I can draw on the screen and I can intersect perfectly. If I were to try that procedure on the iPad, the likelihood that I would hit that central point consistently is fairly unlikely. The technology doesn't provide that affordance. So the accuracy of the stylus on the Windows Surface Pro is something that I think is useful to faculty who teach courses that combine mathematics, finance, anything where you need that visual accuracy on screen. Anyway, that was me talking about the Windows Surface Pro. I hope this was of value to you.